Okay everyone, welcome back to class. Today we are going to be learning how to use the coil technique for hand building. And I like coil. It's nice for making all kinds of different shapes, parts of things. You can also make an entire project out of coil. And so the first thing that we of course do is start with our clay. Now I like to do coils in two different ways. And so the first way is cutting them out of a block of clay. So I'm going to take my clay and I'm going to square it up a little bit. Okay, and I want to make sure not to do this on the table and make loud, annoying noises. Now, to do this, what you need is a couple of ribbon tools. So I can put it on here and push it down so I can make my clay long and skinny. And the reason I want it long and skinny is I'm going to take my ribbon tools and I'm going to cut a coil shape out of this. So I have a couple different sizes to show you, a couple different types of ribbon tools or loop tools, some people call them. So all I have to do once I have a block is sink my tool in there and just cut a long line. And this is a super easy way to get something that's pretty coil shaped already. So once I have that cut out, I'm just going to take and I'm going to use this part of my hand right here to roll my coil. And the goal with coils is not to try and stretch them, but to get them to be evenly round and symmetrical and have nice shape. Okay, so I have this going. So I have my little baby coil. Now, I'm doing this on a canvas board, so obviously canvas texture is going to transfer onto it. The other thing that happens a lot with your coils, you can see they get like a flatter side. So when that happens, roll it up on the side that's a little flatter and just press it with your fingers and then do some more rolling. And the finger part of your hands will make dents in your clay, so you always want to be rolling with the palm. So I'm using my palms to roll. Okay, if you start feeling like one spot's more thin than the others, you skip that spot and just roll the parts that are around it. Now, another trick that I use when I'm rolling coil, if I don't want texture on it, is to put a piece of paper underneath. This is just printer paper. It works great. I can roll a smooth coil without getting any of the texture from my canvas board on it. Now, you always get little cracks in your coils, so I just take a slightly damp sponge and just smooth it. And that's going to give me a nice even coil as I go. Okay, and you can use these for all kinds of different things. Now, coils like to be moist, so make sure you're doing a good job of maintaining your moisture level in your clay so that your coil will be able to bend and do what you want it to do without cracking. Okay, so if your coil is cracking, it is too dry, and you need to do a better job of taking care of your moisture levels on that. So that's the smaller one. Here is the big chonker tool. And so anything that's got a rounded edge like that's going to work great, but you have to make sure there's no dry clay bits on your tool before you use it to cut clay. So I'm going to get in here with this guy and I'm going to cut a big thick coil. Okay. So now that I have that, I'm going to just kind of smooth it down. And then I can start rolling once again, just with this part of my hand. Okay. So I'm going to make this coil, and anywhere it starts getting oval shaped, I can tip it up. Okay. Also, anywhere you start getting indentations that show in your coils, stop what you're doing, smooth them out. You can use just your fingers, you can use a sponge. I usually use a combination of both of those things to make my coils. Okay. And coils are really nice to work with. Now, let's say you have two coils that you want to join together. Okay, we're going to make a second coil, same way we did the first one. Dook. Okay, I'm going to take that coil and I'm going to get it rolled to the same shape and size because I want a long coil. I'm going to set this guy out of the way. I'm going to put a little water on it because we always want our coils to stay moist so that they will bend the way we want without cracking. So I'm going to roll this coil out. Excuse me, Clay, scoot over. Okay, so I'm going to get get this coil made. And rolling coils is pretty simple. Anytime it's choppy, I just smooth that side down. So you have to be patient. Maybe talk to it a little bit. Be like, you're going to be so beautiful. Get my coil going. And the goal with the coil is always to have it be evenly, smooth, symmetrical, and have a nice circular cross section when you look at it from the side. Okay, so have my coil ready to go. Now I want to join these two coils together. There's a really easy trick for doing that. I set them next to each other, and what I do to join coils is I cut them on the diagonal. Okay, what this does is this gives you larger surface area for your connection than if you do it straight. A lot of people want to go like this and stick them together, but if you look at how small your surface is on that compared to the diagonal, you can see you get a lot more surface doing it that way. So I am going to slip and score these together. So I'm going to make a quick little batch of slip. Okay, because I only need a tiny bit, but I would always want to make sure the slip I'm using is good quality and is going to work for what I need to do with it. So I have my fresh clay and I'm just mixing some water into it, and I'm just going to get it so it's nice and creamy. Because anytime you're joining clay, anywhere clay touches clay, must have slip. Slip needs to be good, creamy, and nice quality. So you don't have to go searching around for the slip bucket when you know how to make your own. And this is why it's such an essential skill, because you gotta have slip. So we're just mixing it till it gets that nice fluffy creamy texture, like fresh whipping cream or like nice creamy yogurt. It's always the texture that we're looking for. I'm always going to check it. Be like, okay, let's cream it just a little more. I'm wiping my fork off so that all my slip gets back on my container. Okay. All right. I think that's ready to go. Okay. So I have my slip. Okay. So I don't need my fettling knife anymore. I'm going to get my needle tool. And as always, you want to make sure that you're working with clean hands. And so I'm getting a little messy. Don't want to have any clay bits on my fingers. And make sure my hands are clean and ready to go. So I'm going to take my needle tool and I'm going to cross hatch both sides. I'm all about creating more surface area for my connections. Remember, you don't want a thin connection like this. You want a deep connection in your clay. And so once I have that, score both sides, slip only one. So I'm going to get my slip on there, and then I'm just going to push those together. And I do a little slightly past each other overlap like that. So I'm going to push them towards each other, blend, and then coils. It's super convenient because once you have your blended connections, all you need to do is just roll it for a second in that spot, and it will be a totally seamless connection. Look at that. So good, so fast. Okay, now with coil, what you want to do is start attaching it to the base that you have made. Okay, you can use a pinched base, so you can take clay and you can just pinch out a base for whatever you're going to make and start attaching coils to that, or you can have a slab base. So I'm going to set this aside, but first I'm going to pat a little water on it because we always want to make sure our coils are nice and well hydrated. Okay, so I have this, I can pinch or I can just roll it out real quick and have a slab base. Okay, and I can use little wood dowels to give this a really even thickness, or if I'm just doing something small, I can just use my hand. So I'm going to cut out the shape that I want for my coils, and I'm going to do an oval shape like that. And if I want it to be symmetrical, all I need to do is take the piece I cut off and flip it the other way and use it to trace my shape. Just like that. Okay. Now, as we attach our coils, everything is going to be scored. So this extra clay I don't need, I'm going to put away in my bag so that it stays nice and moist. And we live in the high desert here, and so sometimes I'll just keep my spray bottle and spray a little water into that. So there's the base for the coil project that I'm going to work on, and I'm just making sure that it's got even edges, so I'm just rolling it to smooth it. Now, everything from here is going to be slip and score attachments. Okay, so I'm going to start out attaching this, and I want my edge to kind of blend in, so I'm going to roll that down into a little bit of a point shape, so I have a nice ramp when I'm coming around with my next course. Okay, we'll adjust that. There we go. Okay, so everywhere clay touches clay, it has to be slipped and scored. So that is what I'm going to be doing. I'm gonna slip and score it together. So I'm gonna come here, and I know I have to attach this the entire length around. And so I'm scoring. Okay, and make sure your scoring is deep enough. You need that grab, right? We have to have surface area for that to work. I'm gonna cross hatch it. Now, one of the tricks with doing coil is that you need to make sure that none of your scoring shows after you attach parts. And the other trick is that you want to always make sure that one side is smooth. And so when I'm making a coil project for a vessel, I want to think about, do I want the outside to be smooth or do I want the inside to be smooth? And generally it's the inside you want to smooth. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to start scoring this. And always, we're only going to put slip on one side. Okay, so I will usually slip the bottom. Okay, and I'm going to start attaching that. Now, as you're attaching, you want to do a lot of blending. So I can take any leftover clay that I have and do a little bit of additional clay, just like I would if I was joining two slab pieces, because I want to make sure that the thing that I'm making is going to stay together. So I'm going to support it from the outside with my other hand and use my finger to blend it. Okay, and you'll keep going with that to build up whatever layers you want to do. Okay, and you can just keep working your way up and up and up, and you can keep adding coils. Now, it is good to look at the side and decide, do I want my bottom coil to be blended in or not? And so you can blend it so it has no separation. You can maintain more of a shape of a coil in here. And so what I would do if I want that coil shape to show on this bottom layer is take my knife after it's blended and go ahead and redo the indentation that should be there with the coil, just so that I show that plane difference, the plane change. Okay, and so you can go continuously and build up on that. Now, another thing you can do is make interesting shapes with your coils. I can take my coils and I can blend back out some of the scoring that I did and make some interesting shapes. So if my clay is well hydrated, I'm making sure my hands are staying clean. So if I'm making sure my clay is well hydrated, I can take my clay and make some interesting shapes out of my coils to experiment with. And I would do little tiny slipping and scoring in each of these connection points and blend them in so they don't show. So there's my slipping and scoring happening. Okay, so each of those connection points will be nicely blended. Okay, so I can make all different shapes, and I would go in with a damp silicone tool and clean up those connections so that everything always looks really tidy, because we are 100% about good craftsmanship all the time. So get in there and keep it nice and tidy and interesting. So there's all kinds of shapes that you can make with coils to make what you are doing look really cool. Okay, so I'm gonna set this out of the way so I can show you some coil shapes that are fun. And these are just some of my favorites. You can make just about anything, okay? I like to do some rainbows. So I'm gonna take my knife and I'm going to cut a shape, and I'm gonna bend my coil into a U. So you can do U's, alternating U's, like that. I can take my U's and put them together to make rainbow shapes with as many layers as I would like. And remember, as you're going through doing this, you're gonna slip and score connections, because we always want our clay to be strong. So I could do like 5 layers and make rainbows. I could make full circle shapes, just going like this. Full circles like that. Oh, time to clean my hands off. So use circles. We can do wavy lines like those. Anything you can think of, you can make. I see people that do C's that just go like this, a whole course of C's together. Looks really interesting for layers in a pinch pot. And so those would look like that as you're doing them, as a whole row. Okay, there's all different shapes that you can make. One of the ones that I really like a lot is a ribbon shape. So for that one, I take a coil and I flatten it more, so it's oval shaped. And I take my fingers and make this V shape with it and run over the top so that I have a point. You can see there's almost a pointy part, and you can make ribbon shapes like that that look really interesting. You can get some variation to them. Okay, you can take and make just an interesting course. You can coil them up like that. It's really cool if you're doing something that you want to look like undersea creatures, or make tentacles for things, or whatever. So coils are endlessly versatile. There's all kinds of cool, fun, sorry, that was a bell. All kinds of cool, fun things you can do with them that look really nice. Okay, I hope that that is a nice introduction to coil for you, and that you remember to always slip and score all your connections. Thanks, enjoy.